You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the top 8 of the Eternal Tournament Series, season 3, final weekly. And I'm once again joined by my wonderful co-caster, Truedawn. And we are going to get into our quarterfinals matchup in just a second. But before we do that, I think, either we're displaying the bracket currently or we're going to go over it really quickly. So, Truedawn, if you have that info, do you mind taking it away?
I actually do not have the bracket in front of me.
Okay, so we're just waiting for that for a second, guys. So in the meantime, we'll go ahead and talk about the decks that we're going to be seeing because we already know which matchup we have. We're going to have Marius 294 on FJP Control, and he is going to give against Joaspas, who obviously is on that FTS Witching deck that we got to see for the last 2 rounds. And I did not pick this matchup, but I'm sure Rikenner did this to appease me. He knows that, of course, I would love to see more of this deck, and I would indeed.
Yep, and this matchup should be pretty cool. Again, it's going to be the token Witching Hour deck against one of these slower controlling type decks, the Harsh Rule, a bunch of creatures that don't really interact particularly well with all the tokens. So I would again favor Waspas in this matchup, but certainly Marius has some options. He does have access to Ikaria, which, as we talked about, is a way to steal the game. Marius does also have Rain of Frogs in the main deck, so taking a Xenon Obelisk or Witching Hour could be very potent. So he definitely has a lot of tools, and Lightning Storm as well. So we just to see how it plays out.
Yeah, he certainly does have a lot of tools that he can, hopefully help combat with. Lightning Storm is definitely going to be an important card in this matchup, able to take care of those tokens. They basically are going to act like Harsh Rules 5 and 6 for the early part of this game. And, that's not something to undersell. That is going to be very important for the FJP control deck. But the FJP control deck is really going to need to find Ikaria to, help win. Though the FJP control deck, unlike the Armory deck we saw the token Joaspas go against earlier, does have Stone Scar Maul, and that's another very key card in this matchup.
Yeah, Stone Scar Maul is going to allow him to get over the finish line if he's got him low and needs to get the last bit of damage. All the other weapons in the matchup are pretty poor. Orc Runehammer is just never going to, or at least very rarely going to find a board that it's profitable for that card to be played on. So expect things like sort of Karya and Orc Runehammer to come out as your board. I think Maul, like we said, is going to be good enough to stay in because it still converts to damage over all the tokens.
Yeah, it will be pretty good. I mean, Joaspas, I definitely feel like his deck is very, very solid in this matchup. I feel like you have to kind of favor him against the control decks most of the time, truthfully. But that's just because, he has such an inevitability. We saw it that game with the 3 vaults against the big Comrie deck. It's so hard if you don't close the game early on him to make sure that you actually do win the whole game.
Yeah, definitely. And it's in for Marius, he at least has the avenue of playing an early Ikaria and killing Joaspas that way, because Joaspas does not have ways to interact with Ikaria. In general, I agree that the control deck is just going to be in a bad spot, but Marius does actually have a proactive game plan involving Ikaria that does involve him being able to take this matchup. So we'll see if he's able to find that as we move here into game 1.
Yeah, we are moving into game 1 right away. And we see Marius with a pretty awkward hand. That's definitely going to have to get shipped back. Second hand a little bit better, but this is really slow. I mean, if Joaspas can get off to a blazing fast start, he could easily just run him down in the early turns. Rain of Frogs is actually a very important card. I didn't happen to notice in the main board originally. I assumed it would have been a sideboard card, but looks like Marius is playing at least 1 or 2 copies in the main board, and that will help out significantly in this matchup.
Yeah, if the Rain of Frogs ever tags something like a Xenon Obelisk or a Witching Hour, it does take away a lot of Waspas's inevitability. Even Vault of Praxis would be a reasonable hit. So that card could definitely play a role, or it could just see a hand with a bunch of tokens and not matter. But it's something that could matter.
Yeah, it's certainly something that could matter at some point. We'll see, though. Like I said, off to a very slow start. Good news for Marius, though. Dwaspas not putting on the pressure like he could have. But Marius is going to have to find power immediately or be in an awkward position. And he's looking for a justice as well, because that Auric Runehammer is not going to be playable. Rise to the challenge, not going to do it either.
Yeah, and he has so many cards that are like just so underwhelming. Like Sword of the Sky King is just never going to matter. Auric Runehammer, these Rise to the Challenges take off a turn. The Raid of Frogs may or may not hit. So like his whole hand is full of like probably do nothings. And Dwaspas got to put one of his obelisks in play last turn. So even if Raid of Frogs does hit like obelisk, he still has the one in play. So now he at least has that effect to some degree.
Yeah, and Dwaspas is going to have an interesting consideration here on how much he wants to extend or overextend in this case. Marius picking up a depleted power means that he's going to 7 this turn. I mean, he can rise up. It's actually hard to say what you even rise here. Oh, he has Furnace in the main. Well, definitely would take Furnace Mage here then. But, Dwaspas could easily close this game out regardless. This will help with the Xenon Obelisk, but this is, making sure that you're spending your whole turn next turn playing Furnace Mage.
Now, if Dwaspas is passing there, that probably means his hand is actually pretty awkward. I would expect some number of Witching Hours, Combusts, a lot of reactive stuff, Devoured, similar things like that. So if he's not able to close the last 7 points here, get some distance, then maybe Marius can turn it around with these harsh rolls.
Yeah, maybe. Dwaspas drew a lot of cards right there. I'm curious to see what he's going to follow up with. I would hope he would have a power 2 Grenadin drones and another obelisk. That would be absolutely perfect. But Marison's Disciple is also pretty good. That'll at least start to create a clock. We're going to see Rain of Frogs go off here. Dwaspas has the opportunity to respond, so likely another Devour. And Marius is going to have quite a lot of choices here. We see Vault of the Praxis, Assembly Line, Scrap Tank, Devour, and Witching Hour. All cards he realistically needs to take care of.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting choice. You could take Witching Hour. It takes out a lot of his top end. You could take Vault of Praxis. You then try to grind him out without his card draw engine, but you're still fighting against the Witching Hour. Good news for Dwaspas, as we do see the Vault of Praxis get taken, is that whatever Marius elected to take, Dwaspas still gets to play. He is not in a spot where he was just vulnerable to Rain of Frogs. He actually got to still do stuff, so he'll be in a decent spot this turn.
Yeah, and we'll likely see Scrap Tank come down here, I have to imagine. And Marius, notably, still has not found that second Justice and is holding 5 out of his 6 cards in hand being unplayable currently. Found Marison's actually off the top of his deck, so that was equally good. And that is just going to spell the end of the first game. Very quick one for Dwaspas there, going up 1-0.
Yeah, just mana problems there from Marius. If he was able to cast the harsh rules, he would have bought himself a lot of time. Probably wouldn't have been not a favorite to win from that point, but would have still been able to play it out, would have forced a lot more action on Dwaspas before he died.
Yeah, and somebody really quick, if we can catch it, somebody needs to let Marius know he's not allowed to sideboard. Although I think he just realized that.
Yep, he figured it out.
Yeah, I think he did. So should see that in a second. Yeah, they're gonna jump straight back in. Yeah, we see him starting up with his Ikaria Blue deck, his basic version of Ikaria Blue. So that's good. Good we don't have to catch them and warn them. So I'm glad the players realize. But Marius is going to have a pretty hard time in this matchup as far as I'm concerned. Although this hand is a lot better than his last one.
Yeah, Marius's path to victory is play 7 power cards and then play Ikaria the Liberator. That is what he wants to do. And fortunately for him, this hand kind of allows him to do that most of the way there.
Yeah, this is a very good start. He's going to be at 2 Fire Influence and 2 Justice Influence already. So likely we'll be able to hit 3 and 3. Again, though, this does depend on how quickly Dwaspas can really put a clock on. Lightning Storm helps out a tremendous amount, keep you from incurring a lot of that early damage like we saw last game where Marius got smacked for 6 3 turns in a row and was just already down to 7 health right out of the gate.
Yeah, his Marius's draw is actually very good. He's going to get to Wisdom, draw some power, rise to the challenge for whatever he needs to keep himself alive. Get to this Sicaria, likely enter turn 7. So, those 2 power ensure it. So, Marius's draw has been really good. He has a harsh rule, so he's not going to die before the Sicaria gets into play. And he just take the Furnace Mage to deal with his Vault Praxis. So, Marius in a much better spot this game than he previously was last game.
Yeah, I said this was going to be hard for him, but right now he's making it look really easy, and we're likely just going to see a harsh rule get fired off here. I don't know about this Furnace Mage as much, but I guess it's fine because he's got the Vanquish now picked up, so not too worried about it. He'll stop the card draw engine in its tracks, and he does know Akaria is going off on the next turn, so...
It does make his harsh rule awkward, although, this is First Mage is likely going to trade. If this first,
Whoa.
no, it's probably fine. He still has the Vanquish. His Vanquish is not going to have other targets. It does make the... Interesting. He's going to stand back both. Just hold on to both.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, he's definitely getting aggressive here. I guess this is a pretty reasonable line.
Yeah, getting the 6 damage in there actually matters a lot because your path, like we talked about, is Akaria. So getting that 6 damage in, making Akaria 4-turn clock instead of a 5-turn clock does matter quite a bit.
Yeah, it certainly does. Dwaspas is basically going to need double combust to get out here, and we didn't see him follow up with any units, even though he had a Vault of the Praxis, which means he's probably losing this game. Yeah, he's already down to 5, so he needs to find Grenadin Drone, double Grenadin Drone into double combust, or assembly line into double combust.
Even if he has that, he's still going to likely die to this Valkyrie. So
yeah,
again, this is the weakness to flyers that this deck has.
Yeah, and oh man, he's so close to being able to block that Akaria. That's so unfortunate. I don't know why he's swinging in there. He actually still could have bought himself a turn, but now he is... I guess he can still buy himself a turn. Vanquish comes down, though, and cleans it up.
Yeah, he was always dead to the Vanquish, just the attackers in the air.
Yeah, very true, very true. So Akaria being his game plan, we do see that pay off nicely for him there. So yeah, I mean, Marius basically did exactly what he needed to do. He had ways to remove the board. He had early interaction. Dwaspas's hand must have been awkward because he never went full out on the board. And yeah, that ended up working out very, very well for him.
Yeah, he wasn't ever able to play the Witching Hour that we saw in his hand, which with the Obelisk in play would have actually been able to contest the Akaria. He was just always a little bit short on that, unfortunately. But if he's able to get that down, that is a way he can combat the Akaria game plan. But we'll see what these players are going to side into as we move into a game. As we move to sideboard after game 2. We've talked about the sideboarding from Waspas earlier in similar matchups. I would expect the Sabotage and the Slow to come in some number, but again, you don't want to dilute your core strategy. There's not a lot of things you can afford to side out.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely have to bring in 3 copies of Slow, though, because I think your game plan here is to make Akaria cost 14. I think that's really that's how you make sure you win the game. If Akaria costs 14, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Marius to actually win. On Marius's side, we see 2 Ruins. Those are very likely coming in. Rain of Frogs might see an appearance. Borderlands Waykeeper might actually see some copies come in to stave off the early aggression, but also none of that is super important, really. Backlash could definitely find its way into the list, though.
Oh yeah, that'd be reasonable. It does give you an answer to Harsh Rule.
Also gives you an answer to Witching Hour.
Or that's what I meant. Yeah, sorry, the wrong word came out.
No, it's okay. Gives you an answer to Witching Hour. Gives you an answer to Torrent, Assembly Line, Quarry, and Devour. And Combust as well. Though Combust is much, much less important.
I'm not even sure that Dwaspas is going to have Combust in post board because all the creatures you care about have Aegis. I mean, I guess Valkyrie, but you could just play Mirror Scene tokens or Witching Hour or whatever to deal with that. You should be able to beat the 3 damage clock.
Yeah, you can get around that very, very easily. So not going to be too worried about that at all. Just see the players taking a little bit of time to go ahead and sideboard, figure their game plans out. Probably not too worried about what they're bringing in, more worried about what they're taking out. Definitely in Dwaspas's case, it is very hard to side with his deck. Like there are so many cards you just feel like you have to keep in. Combust can probably come out though.
Yeah, the only card I'm seeing is like obviously should come out as Combust, and maybe you could shave a Torch of Spiders in this matchup. It's not. No, that's really good. Yeah, like I'm not seeing anything you really want to bring out, to be honest. Maybe Ephemeralist because they have Valkyrie Enforcers, could be a thing. But again, it's good against the rest of the deck. So definitely a weird spot. Sideboarding for Wasp Boss.
Yeah, I feel like Ephemeral Wisp actually has to stay in. I feel like only 4 silences isn't enough to force you to pull it out, and it's so good against Harsh Rule and Lightning Storm, of which we see 6 copies between the 2 of them. And, it does a reasonable job just chump blocking or being fodder. So probably we'll see that come down. It's pretty bad against Stone Scar Maul, admittedly, but so is the whole deck, so you can't really try and tech around that.
Yeah, like in Stone Scar Maul, it's only going to be like a finisher. It's not like you lose that card. It's just reach that the Fire Justice Primal Control deck can use to close the game after they've chipped in with other stuff. So it's not like that card's going to run roughshod over the game. It's likely only going to get it to attack once, but that damage still does matter.
Yeah, very true. It could see multiple attacks, but yeah, unlikely to. We'll likely just crack for 4 or 5, 6 damage, whatever it needs to do. Depends on if it gets buffed up or not as well. But we are hopefully about to get into game 3 right now. 1 game apiece for the players.
We did see that Marius selected to bring in one of the backlashes, which is a reasonable number. Also, both of the ruins. Really wants to deal with the Xenon Obelisks and Vault of Praxis. Xenon Obelisk prevents Zrospas from killing Xenon Obelisk prevents Zrospas from killing him. Killing Vault of Praxis prevents him from winning the long game, at least to some degree. So definitely killing these big enchantments is important, or attachments.
Yeah, and I definitely like the at least single copy of Backlash. You don't need probably both copies, but it will be nice to have one because a lot of the cards Waspas plays are actually spells instead of units. Even spells like Witching Hour and Assembly Line, which just produce units. Yep. And Marius with a pretty reasonable hand out of the start. It's a little slow. Picks up a Torch. That'll help out maybe with something early. But Torch is actually a very interesting card in this matchup.
Yeah, it's one of the cards I would have assumed that Marius brought out. It doesn't really trade with anything particularly well. I guess it could kill the important part of a scrap tank when it first comes down, but generally it's just going to trade for half of a card or part of a card. Maybe there were other cards that were worse, like Orc Gridhammer, but Torch not particularly good in this matchup.
Yeah, mainly just going to be in the way, honestly. But the good news for Marius is that he's got 2 Rise to the Challenges, and he's already hit his. He will have hit by next turn his 3 Fire and 3 Justice Influence. So Ikaria likely to come down on turn 7, assuming he can hit his power in order.
And we see Marius here weighing whether or not he wants to take the turn off to Rise the Challenge or put down the Valkyrie for no value on the trigger just to have a blocker in play and not get run to the gym by these tokens, which is unlikely. So we will see probably just this Rise the Challenge.
Yeah, Rise the Challenge. I think I like this and just go fetch Ikaria. Oh, interesting. He's actually going to grab Marshall. That actually can make some degree of sense since he has Rise to the Challenge. He can go ahead and try and accelerate with Marshall. But
yeah, this actually works out pretty well because next turn you just Rise to the Challenge. Following turn you Iron Thorn, play the power, and then turn after that you Ikaria with that you Rise for.
Though he does have to find another power to go with the Marshall
Correct.
Thorn. So that will be his one hang up in the meantime. So instead, I think his line is going to be something like Valkyrie Enforcer. Silence doesn't particularly matter, and then he's going to throw this Torch, I have to imagine. This also lets him hold up a power for Ruin, so if Dwaspas drops the Obelisk this turn, he can go ahead and take care of that as soon as it hits the table and make sure he doesn't eat a bunch of damage.
Yeah, Marius is pretty well insulated from a lot of different things. He's not going to take a bunch of damage here. He's only going to take 3. Torch takes care of the 3/3. He gets to block the 2/2. He has Ruin for either attachment if it comes down. He has Rise to Challenge to get Ikaria. He has Iron Thorn to get enough power to get Ikaria if he draws another power. So
yeah,
there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, now he can definitely take the turn off to establish this Martial Ironthorn, and since Marius picked up another torch, he'll be able to handle another unit on the following turn. Although, if Dwaspas can get down... Vault wasn't what he was looking for here. If he had found Obelisk there, that would have been perfect. He could have actually, cracked in for quite a bit of damage. As it stands, I think Marius is actually going to take this time to go ahead and put himself on the aggressive.
Yeah, he actually gets to get some value out of this Orc Rune Hammer. It kills the 3/3 and forces some of these things to attack in or just gets to attack again. So Orc Rune Hammer actually not being useless, getting some leverage out of that. Although Dwaspas did get to get value from his Vault, Marius being a little bit conservative with his Ruin, which I get. Obelisk is certainly the more important of the two, but if Dwaspas just gets to keep drawing cards off this, then your 1-for-1 Ruin isn't going to matter.
Yeah, I have to question if he actually intentionally did that or if that was actually a mistake on his part. Like, I have to wonder if he was waiting to ruin it and then forgot that he obviously wouldn't get to respond to the trigger. Could have gone either way, not entirely sure. But we see Dwaspas just making a basic attack in, getting a little bit of value off the Devour, and kind of turning it back over to Marius and saying, "What you got for me?"
Yep, and these Iron Thorns will be able to get him up to Ikaria mana. He could also just rise to the challenge and play the seat, and then he could Ikaria next turn, which is probably what I'd do. I don't see a reason to play this other Iron Thorn.
Yeah,
to get Ikaria in play as soon as possible.
Yeah, I don't particularly see a reason to do this either, but that's fine. He's not under a lot of pressure. He's got a reasonably stalled out board at this point, so Dwaspas not putting him, not really threatening him at all. So I guess Marius feels like he's in a comfortable enough position. Is that the fourth Marison's Disciple? I believe it is.
It's either third or fourth. I kind of lost count, to be honest.
Yeah, I want to say we've seen four. It is hard to keep track of, though. All right, Ephemeral Wisp is important, but not important enough. Yeah, Lightning Storm is going to be huge here. He grabs Ikaria very obviously, drops this Lightning Storm. I would definitely fire this Ruin off at this point on your turn. Like, you can afford to just take off this Vault of the Praxis now. You're not worried about Obelisk.
Yeah, definitely. You just don't want to draw any more stuff. This Ikaria plus the Valkyrie is lethal, and not to mention the 2 Iron Thorns in play, which he also has to deal with, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be rough for Dwaspas. Yeah, there's something like Torrent of Spiders into nothing, I guess. It's just the flyers are so hard for this deck to deal with. Torrent of Spiders actually into Witching Hour would give him some game, but I don't think it's discounted that much yet.
Yeah, it's hard to say how much it's discounted, actually. I think Witching Hour might be with that seat power. I think it's probably below 5 at this point, but unfortunately not quite low enough, or he's just not holding it. But we definitely have seen quite a large number.
I'm pretty sure he would have been able to cast it. There's been a lot, especially if he had a Torrent of Spiders, it would have been a bunch of spiders. Although he had the Assembly Line, it was kind of the same thing. So yeah, it's again not drawing Witching Hour, but he does survive at 1 here, so he's not dead. But it looks like he's just going to pass the turn back.
He wasn't dead right away, but he most certainly is unfortunately going to lose here. Dwaspas just not able to bring it home in this case. I'm not sure what card he's mousing over, because we all know he is most certainly dead. There's no way to stop that Ikaria. That thing is definitely going to connect, and we in fact see him at negative 21 life after that. So Marius getting a nice 2-1 lead. Going to see if after that board he can go ahead and bring it home. I wonder what Marius is reconsidering. Just mouses over the deck list real quick to make sure it's all in place. I was considering, or not considering, I was curious if he was going to pull that Backlash out, since it was sitting in his hand and not doing much, but seems that he isn't too worried about it.
I mean, Witching Hour is still a very powerful card that he has to be wary of. Just because it didn't come down there doesn't mean it doesn't matter. If Dwaspas did have Witching Hour, that would have been the way he turns that game around. So we do see him taking out the Backlash. We'll see if he gets punished for that, but I think it still does matter quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm inclined as well to keep in the Backlash. Definitely, I think there's just too many powerful spells your opponent's going to play that you need to take care of. But when he hit his sideboard right out of the gate, that's just exactly what I felt he was going for. Like I just felt like he was going to take the backlash out because I'm pretty sure everything else in the deck is very, very solid.
Yeah, it's just balancing all this reactive stuff. The 3 Rain of Frogs still seem medium to me. I think that Boss's deck is not particularly reliant on any one card outside of Obelisk, and hitting Obelisk is very good, but hitting anything else is kind of whatever. So you're taking off turn 4 to do something that might matter. It might be very good, but it also could also just, you already have a bunch of 4 mana do nothings in Rise to the Challenge. Adding more of those cards is generally not great, but the payoff is probably worth it.
Yeah, I feel like taking backlash for Borderlands Wakekeeper is a little questionable there. I think being able to stop a witching hour is more important than being able to deal with the early 1 and 2 damage.
Yeah, that's not what the game is about.
Yeah, it's not about the early turns. It's about the early turns for Dwaspas. Like if Dwaspas can mount, 5, 6, 7 tokens on turn 4, drop an obelisk, it goes unchecked, he gets in a big swing. Like something like that matters, but the 1/3 Wakekeeper is certainly not going to prevent him from dying in that situation.
And we do see the Rain of Frogs in this table. We'll see if Marius elects to keep this.
Yeah,
it does not.
It's a very awkward keep there for Marius, although this is arguably even worse. He's going to have to find Fire Sigils immediately, or
A lot of them.
Yeah, this Akari is definitely going to be hard to play, and Dwaspas is on the money. He hit his turn 1. If he hits his turn 1 and he hits anything decent on turn 2, this is how he wins the game. Like, he needs to carry this out.
And this is the cool thing about the tokens deck, as you see him just playing with the Grenade Drone, is you just have these like accidental nut draws where it's like, yeah, I'll just play these tokens on turn 1, 2, and put you under pressure. But it doesn't need to do that. Like, if this like early aggression doesn't pan out and or Marius plays something that forces Dwaspas to pump the brakes, that's fine. Like, the game's not about that. It's just like Dwaspas is attacking because he can, not because he needs to.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see this slow come down. I'm very curious as to what you think is going to get slowed here. I mean, I'm inclined to believe it's going to be this Akaria, but I mean, Akaria is already so slow based on his hand. Like, Dwaspas, if he's paying attention, realizes that he's seeing 6 cards. Obviously knows Marius' hand is 6 cards, so no power floating around. I mean, you really could kind of double whatever you feel like here.
Yeah, like, it would depend a lot upon the texture of Dwaspas' hand. If you think you can aggro him out of the game, then you would take something like Harsh Rule, and then the Akari would never matter. If your hand has a lot of like card draw stuff and more value-oriented game plan, then the game will likely get to a point where Akaria is castable, so you take Akaria. We do see him take Ironthorn, which is a little bit interesting. It does... Taking Ironthorn is kind of taking Akaria. It really hurts your ability to get to Akaria. So I definitely understand that. It's kind of a hedge between the two. But a lot of that was dependent upon the texture of Dwaspas' hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Martial Ironthorn is totally a solid pull there. And yeah, Marius doesn't pick up a Fire Sigil, and Dwaspas hit that Obelisk. So this is just absolutely going to be it. And wow, yeah, it goes in, has the Sabotage, so he ends up picking up the Harsh Rule out of the hand too.
Makes sense now, yeah.
Yeah, Marius is 100% dead now. There is no possible way for him to get back in this game. And yeah, it doesn't even hit power. So that is going to do it for game 4. We're going to go to 2 games apiece right up to the hill.
Yep. Didn't get much of a game there, but this series has been close outside of that. I think this matchup is very close. It'd be cool to see how game 5 pans out. I don't think that it's just unfortunate for Marius to not draw power. It's going to happen with the slow 3-color decks, especially the 3-color decks that do not have access to Find the Way. So just I don't think you can be too reactionary if you're Marius here. You can just kind of have to say, okay, that happens, and move on to game 5.
Yeah, we see Marius go ahead and make a couple interesting cuts and decisions here, and I definitely feel like those Vanquishes should have been out. I also still feel like Torch is like a completely unnecessary card here. Like, it really just does not trade well. Yeah, you might be able to take care of the occasional scrap tank coming down before it gets big, but are you really trying to play 4 of a card that otherwise is pretty bad for one instance?
Yeah, I'm not high on the Wakekeepers. I think that the game's just not about that. Like, yes, sometimes he can have the early aggression, and that matters. You don't want to die to that, but I think that you just need to draw like a lightning storm, even a Valkyrie, like helps blunt that a lot. Really any creature. I don't think you want these Waykeepers because when the game plays out and like the stuff that's supposed to matter matters, and we get to that point, those cards are just like unplayable.
Yeah. I honestly do think that the Waykeepers are better than the Torches, though. Like, if you had to give me a choice between Torch and Waykeeper, like, I'll pull those Torches out for Waykeepers in this matchup every single day. So, but interestingly enough, he put in the Waykeepers, but the Torches are still there. Like, he's got 4, and that's kind of odd. I definitely feel like I'm looking at his sideboard, and I could definitely find a bunch of cards that I would take over those Torches that are not in his list currently. So. But we will see. That's going to have to be a redraw, and that is a much cleaner hand for Marius. He's definitely going to like this one. Hopefully, he draws into some more action, though. This could be kind of awkward, depending on how good Dwaspas' hand is.
Yeah, I mean, he's insulated from the early aggression. That's what this Waykeeper does. Like, it's not useless. It does prevent Waspas from like aggroing Marius out, but it doesn't do a lot else. It may attack for 2 later a bunch, but the game's not really about any of the cards in Marius' hand. He's kind of sitting on air, and you have Torch too. Like, he's kind of drawn the trifecta of cards that don't really matter in this matchup.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, the Waykeeper will at least stop the early aggression, and the Hammer will be able to clean up a token or whatever, and Torch will be able to clean up a scrap tank. But yeah, you're essentially playing with a bunch of situational answers right now, and that's not where you want to be. Like, you want Rise is huge here. That's going to matter a lot. Now he can Rise for Ikaria, and he can actually go find a win condition. And that's what's going to matter. Martial Ironthorn is also acceptable here, although if Dwaspas did keep in at least 1 or 2 combust, this Martial Ironthorn could just be blown up next turn, and that would be pretty bad for Marius since he really doesn't have anything else going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit aggressive with the Ikaria, but you're only 1 red source away. I think I would have done it just because playing on turn 7 is just so powerful. This Ironthorn isn't super duper relevant. It does get you up to Ikaria mana. Does get that second red for you, but you do need to now find Ikaria. Without Ikaria, the rest of his hand doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I like the Auric Runehammer there, or here. Torch, I guess, also works. Yeah, if he wants to go ahead and Torch, I don't know about the activation there, though. I think I would have jammed the Hammer down for the extra 4 damage. Like, just put him on the 1-turn clock. As is, though, I think he actually still does have a 1-turn clock either way. We see 9... no, not quite, because he didn't put the Hammer down last turn. If he had put the Hammer down last turn, he'd be good here, but
yeah, it's actually gonna get the beatdowns going. Yeah, like, this is lethal. Dwaspas just like didn't do anything.
This is interesting that he wants to use the Hammer this time around, but sure, it doesn't matter too much either way. Yeah, I think Dwaspas, unfortunately, is going to see his demise right here. He's going to need like a Grenadin drone.
I mean, assembly line is good. Fighters doesn't quite do it.
Well, interestingly enough, actually, I really don't think it matters what he has. If he can't interact with that Waykeeper plus Torch is the 5 damage.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I forgot that the Waykeeper line, you're right.
Yeah.
Here I was saying Waykeeper didn't matter, and it's just going to attack for lethal.
Yeah, where, Marius otherwise did present at least some sort of defense, or Dwaspas rather did present some sort of defense. Like it is possible for him, or would have been possible for him to block this turn. Not going to be, unfortunately. We're just going to see Marius go ahead. Whoa. I guess that works too, but I'm always hesitant when I see things like that. It's like don't give your opponent any outs. Like don't let him like, for example, like, you don't know that he didn't have an Annihilate. Like, he has Annihilates in the sideboard. He could have easily just annihilated the
Ironthorn, yeah.
The Ironthorn, yes, thank you. And then you would have only dealt 2 damage, and now your opponent's sitting at 3 life. Like, you still have a Waykeeper at that point, which is good, and you still have your Hammer, which is good, but you didn't win in the same turn. Like, you definitely want to close those games out as quickly as possible. Don't give your opponent extra draws. Don't give them extra outs.
Yeah.
Make it as clean as possible. But despite that slight little hiccup in Marius's play, otherwise it navigated almost flawlessly. He played very well. Big shout out to Jwaspas for bringing such a cool deck. I really do appreciate seeing the creativity of some of the players. And yeah, I mean, he did get a top 8 result with it. So clearly he proved, went 5-1 with the deck on the day. Clearly proved that it's nothing to stick your nose up at. It is definitely a real archetype, and I hope we see more people play in the future.
Yeah, and you could play a lot of stuff that helps with a lot of the problems Rossboss encountered. And we do actually have backup match on outside of the bracket with Thundershot and Ozymandias in let me see.
I think they're in game 3.
Yeah, Thundershot is up 2-0 currently.
Yeah, Thundershot up 2-0 over Ozymandias, and looking at this point, it's a little early to call it, but it looks like he's in a very solid position. Ozymandias is going to need to have a harsh roll here to clean this up, and even if he does, Thundershot's got some great reloading tools right now.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of business here for Thundershot. This Surso matters a lot. This Vanquish is really weird to see post board against Ozymandias. I'm not sure. I don't think he even has targets for it. It's odd to see that in the deck still.
Yeah, that is very odd, and we'll see what Thundershot decides to follow up with here. Curious to see if he's going to play Titan. If you play Titan, you're susceptible to Harsh Rule. If you play Surso, you're susceptible to Permafrost and just leaving the 2-1. So it depends on what he thinks his opponent's threats are. Probably no Permafrost handy. He probably would have Permafrosted that Awakened Student a while ago.
Yeah, that would certainly be reasonable. This Western Herald is unfortunately not very good in the face of Sandstorm Titan. And one of the weaknesses of Horu is Sandstorm Titan. It's really just Vanquish or Bust. Permafrost doesn't work, which is one of the other premier removal spells in the archetype. Or Rune Hammer is generally going to be too small. So this Western Herald is looking pretty sad right now.
Yeah, and Thundershot, considering which card to extend with here, I honestly am not sure I'd extend with either card, truthfully. I think you're just making Harsh Rule way better than it needs to be against you right now. Great Parliament could have certainly sat in his hand.
You can kind of read that maybe Ozzy doesn't have it because it'd be super weird to play out that Herald last turn if you have Harsh Rule. Although maybe that's what Ozzy wants them to think. Maybe it's a bait. So I'm not sure. The Herald seems odd to me if they have a Harsh Rule, but maybe it's bait.
That is true. The Herald certainly is awkward. Yeah, I don't think it was bait. I think you're reading that correctly. It would be nice if it was bait. It would certainly have been a solid play by Ozzy to bait out the extra card drop, especially since this Herald probably isn't going to matter too terribly much in this matchup. Valkyrie Enforcer, very important here. Although he does have to silence the bird instead of the Sandstorm Titan.
Well, we're going to get to look at last game, Ozymandias' hand. With this Rain of Frogs here, we will see Channel the Tempest, Backlash, 2 Seek powers. So,
wow, and that's
Ozzy's kind of on air because the rest is power. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. The rest is just power. So yeah, Ozzy is going to get that Channel of the Tempest taken from him, and that's basically going to ensure that Thundershot can take this game home. It's going to be Harsh Rule off the top or nothing.
Yeah. And even then, he gets to follow up with the Surso, and then we know the rest of Ozzy's hand is air, so we need to go runner answers.
Yeah, and that's going to be quite difficult here. So, yeah, I don't think that there's any way Ozzy gets out of this game. And it all starts with this Harsh Rule right here. If we don't see Harsh Rule come down, then, yeah, this game is over.
Yeah, it's been an unfortunate end to the run of the cool decks we've seen so far. The Witching Hour deck, the Horu Control deck, both made it to top 8, but it looks like both are in for an early exit.
Ooh, a lucky double Inspire on that hammer does keep him alive, actually. So that was actually very, very relevant. And if he does have a that's super big too. Yeah, having a frog here just to block. Maybe I spoke a little too soon.
Yeah, maybe we both did. I mean, he's still really far behind. He needs a lot of help. But maybe Thundershot gets apprehensive, doesn't play one of these to board. It seems unlikely. But he's still likely going to need a Harsh Rule or at least a Vanquish. Actually, it has to be a harsh rule because he's taking 4 to kill one of these, the bird or whatever. Then the 2/1 would be lethal if he only had Vanquish for the Ursa.
Yeah, still going to have a harsh rule, and we haven't seen a snap harsh rule, so I'm not sure Ozzy's got it. Throne Warden will help, though. This means he can take care of the bird cleanly if he wants to, though he will lose the hammer on the way back, so he may as well take care of the Cerso now.
Yeah, I think he needs to kill Cerso and then trade the bird for the 4/4, take 2. Yeah, he's like clawing back. Like, he is not dead.
Yeah, he is trying as hard as possible to keep himself alive, and we're gonna. Oh, thank you, Thundershot. Gonna go ahead and run through, and I didn't see a single harsh rule when he just did that. So harsh rule's still quite live in the deck. Ozzy probably gonna go ahead and slam this hammer into the Cerso, and then block his Throne Warden into this owl, and that will at least reduce. What'll he be at? He'll be at 4 after the Cerso. He'll be at 2 after the first crack. So yeah, he'll still need to find a harsh rule next turn, very likely. Definitely if Thundershot plays an additional threat.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just, it'd be interesting to see if what Ozzy can draw here. Like Channel the Tempest, I guess is kind of good.
Yeah, well, we're in an interesting situation. If Ozzy doesn't have anything else in his hand right here, then he needs a harsh rule, assuming the Sandstorm Titan gets played down, because he's going to be at 2 health, and I don't think anything else is going to help him out here. Channel the Tempest into Permafrost, I guess, is one other out.
Yeah, it's really just can Ozzy beat this board? He can. It's not super difficult. He just needs 2 cards, but as we saw several turns ago, he was an air, and he's kind of played as many business spells as he's had draw steps since then. So I'm unsure that he has what it takes here to.
Yeah, I am as well. We've definitely seen every single one of his draw steps, I'm pretty sure, to this point played out. So yeah, and Ozymandias unfortunately not able to bring it home. Thundershot taking it down there 3-0 over Ozymandias with his TJP mid-range deck.
Yeah, and a good showing there by Ozzy with a really interesting deck. Not something that's we saw, like, I think it was last week or the week before in the Eternal Tournament series, do reasonably well. But Horror Control is just a really cool deck. It's just a streamlined control deck, knows what it's doing. And it's cool to see decks like that people don't traditionally play have success in the ETS.
Yeah, it is very awesome to see that. Really quick, we can actually go over the bracket, or at least where we are now. So round 1 was Angry Chicken against aReNGee. They are, I think, the only match still going. Unfortunately, we can't stream either of the players, so we will just be hopefully updating you guys as that comes in. We had Wallaby versus AloonX. Let me update my bracket and see if that had a conclusion. Yeah, Walladil, my apologies. Walladil got in 3-0 over AloonX. So Stonescar Callus, I always do that. I don't know why I do that, but Stonescar Callus making its way into the semifinals, going to at least have a shot at the finals. We just saw the bottom of the bracket, Ozymandias going down, very unfortunately, to Thundershot 3-0. So no Huru control in the finals, but that is okay. We still get a TJP mid-range deck, so that's cool. I like TJP mid-range. And at the very bottom of the bracket, we see Marius, who we saw as our feature match, taking down Jwaspis 3-2, which, again, a little unfortunate. I mean, I'm happy Ikaria Blue is still going. So, I mean, Ikaria Blue is always a really cool deck. But Jwaspis bringing, the deck that has absolutely captured my heart for the tournament.
Yeah, it's super fun. I like the deck a lot as well. It's unfortunate to see him leave top 8 early, but did super good job. Had a lot of success with a relatively unknown deck. It'll be cool to see if he innovates on it moving forward in the future. We see it again later in ETS. There's definitely a lot of room for innovation on that archetype because it's so new. And there's also ways to deal with your weakness to flyers. You could play things like Scorpion Wasp or Sandstorm Titan if you're still in the double time thing, which I think is loose still. But yeah, like that deck just has a lot of room to grow. I definitely like to see how it grows in the future. And thanks to Wasp for bringing it. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Drops Boss, and I hope you bring it in, tomorrow, actually, because if you aren't qualified, and this is for all you viewers out there, we will be holding the last chance qualifier tomorrow. I believe the start time is the exact same as today, noon, and the top 4 from tomorrow will qualify for the Invitational, which we will be holding next Saturday. Invitational is next Saturday, guys. So first and second of the month, we will be doing the 2-day invitational, and LCQ will be tomorrow, 12 o'clock tomorrow. And we just got an update that Angry Chicken beat aReNGee 3-1. Angry Chicken going ahead and chalking a win up for himself. I haven't taken a look too much at Angry Chicken's deck, but I do believe he is playing Anew tomorrow in the main.
Ooh, interesting. That's definitely spicy. It'll be cool to see that.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see that. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to be taking a look at their match. I do believe we're going to be doing Thundershot versus Marius, but we will let you all know when we come back from this very, very short break. So stay tuned, folks. Do not go anywhere. We are going to get the streams pulled up and jump right back into the semifinals.